morning, my name is Fatia and welcome to our Digital Transformation for Tomorrow series. STACS is establishing a series of interviews with the top leader of the industry, and today we are joined by Ms. Benja Supannakul. Benja is the partner in the Bangkok office of Baker McKenzie. She joined Baker McKenzie in 2001 and she specialized in the area of financial projects, including structured projects, finance, wealth management, private banking, and many others. She has also acting as a Thai legal counsel for the ISDA Association and regular advises international banks, capital markets, intermediaries, fund managers, insurance company, and other financial institutions on financial services compliance and regulatory matter. Ms. Benja has been recognized by several of the world leading legal directories, and today she's here to share her opinion and knowledge on our topic, digital transformation in the new normal, blockchain development in the industry. Good morning, Ms. Benja. How are you?
Good morning. Very good. Thank you, Bashir. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for accepting this invitation to our STACS series. It's a pleasure to have you in our interview.
Yeah, it is my pleasure as well to join this interview session. It is very interesting.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to ask you some questions, so feel free to share your opinion with us, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
In your point of view, what's the challenge for Baker and McKenzie post-COVID-19?
I think in terms of challenge for Baker McKenzie post-COVID-19, we would have to face some twofold unfamiliar environments. And the first one, I would call it as an external challenge in the sense that we have to try to basically, balance between keeping our employees safe while also balancing and maintaining the efficiency of the work, the productivities, and also the quality of work as well. So I would like to, basically highlight the challenge into two parts. The first part would be the external factor, and the second part would be the internal challenge. For the external challenge, I would say that we have to be very adaptive in this new normal situation, because it is quite obvious that the service that we have to provide to the client would have to change to keep up with the changing situation in the country and also around the world. For example, I think the trend of asking for our service is now changing to, some kind of a question on the restructuring, the business restructuring, whether in or outside the court, and also a lot of questions coming from the client on the electronic signatures, because basically they cannot sign documents, agreements in person. So on one side, they are afraid whether or not their client will repudiate the contract without physical signing. And on the other hand, from the customer side, sometimes they are afraid whether or not they will get the service that they require if they don't really have a physical signing ceremony like in the past. Apart from that electronic signature topic, which has become a hot topic in Thailand at the moment, because our government, the digital ministry, just issued a new guideline as to what should be the trustworthy electronic signature. So our industry seems to be excited about adopting that guideline and implement it in practice. We also have to face the challenge in terms of, how to advise the client to continue complying with all of the regulatory compliance obligation in this, I would say, unfamiliar environment. I would forecast that this repercussion for our client would be quite far-reaching and long-lasting. So we will have to try to be very evolving and keep up with the situation. Apart from that external challenge, we have to face an internal challenge as well in terms of how we conduct our own business, because as you can see, there are lockdowns in many countries. Most of our clients have to work from home, and likewise during the lockdown period in our country, we have to work from home as well. So we have to ensure that we can connect with each lawyer, each partner, and also our clients seamlessly, even though we are not at the office, and maintain our productivity and quality of work. But in my own opinion, I think Baker McKenzie in Bangkok quite swiftly adopt and can fully function from like the remote working arrangement, because I think we have already, tried to implement this kind of system several times before the lockdown commenced. So that's why when we have to really implement it, I think we successfully implement the smooth transition. Yeah, I think that is a brief challenge post-COVID, in my opinion.
Yeah, so internal and external challenges. Yeah, and what you think will come first, like innovation or regulation in the Thai financial market?
I see. Okay, in my view, I think market is at its best when both innovation and regulation works hand in hand. But in reality, that is a perfect world, right? If you ask me about what I see in Thai market, I would say that, if it depends on the area that you like me to comment on. If we talks about like the investment world, it may not be practical to try to imagine what would be the new financial products, right? So in reality, innovation leads the market development in the investment world, and the regulatory play a bit of the role of catch up. Likewise, in FinTech space, I would say that the regulator and regulation seems to play a role of a bit of the catch up as well. For example, if you see from the news, our regulator tried to catch up with the changing scenario, whereby the customer of financial institution may not be able to go to the business premise to do the KYC, the customer know your customer process. So because of that need, driven by market players, our regulator tried to implement regulatory sandbox, just like the Thai SEC, also implement what we call regulatory sandbox that allow the eKYC process to allow the securities company in Thailand to onboard new clients without having to see the clients face to face to identify the client. And this, I would say, eKYC technology was actually launched in 2017, but it becomes more popular when the situation changed, and especially post-COVID-19. Apart from that eKYC, earlier last week, the SEC also announced the expansion of the scope of regulatory sandbox, not only just to cover the eKYC process, but also cover like various intermediary securities business, like brokerage business, private fund business, or like investment advisory business, to be able to provide those services using the technology, just like the algorithm or the electronic platform. Also, our regulator is trying to explore the electronic trading platform implementation by certain business operators as well. So they are trying to change the regulation to keep up with the evolving scenario at the moment. Likewise, they also try to implement, let's say, like DLT technology with the after-sale service, just like clearinghouse or securities depository or securities registrar, because they just allow the Thai Bond Market Association to taste the implementation or the performance of securities registrar using blockchain technology or DLT technology. So in a nutshell, I would say that if you ask about FinTech space or like investment world, obviously innovation seems to be the lead factor to drive market development, and regulation seems to play a role of catch up. But obviously our regulator is very accommodating and try to basically get feedback and get the opinion from the market as to what they should be doing to improve our regulatory framework to accommodate the new normal scenario.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. And have the Thai regulator been pushing for the innovation, or it's the other way that the financial institution been pushing for more advanced regulation?
Okay, I think on this, I see a bit of both approach depending on the particular product and services. Just like as in terms of like investment products, I would say that market players play an important role in pushing for more advanced regulation. And the very outstanding example would be the recent regulation that market players try to put for setting up what we call like high yield bond fund. Because in the past, the investment behavior in Thailand is a bit, I would say, uncommon or unusual when compared with other market like US market. Because in the US market, if you talk about investment in high yield bond, most of the investor will be the institutional investor, just like the funds, because they are more sophisticated, they have more expertise and resource in valuing the high yield bond and the credit worthiness of the issuers. But in Thailand, the behavior is very different because I would say that approximately like 30% of the market share for the investment in high yield bond are the retail investors. So you could see that the behavior of investment in Thailand may be a bit different. And that's why the market players, especially the intermediary in Thailand, would like to push for the regulator to allow for setting up of the spatial type of the fund in Thailand in order to give an alternative for the investor, the retail investor, to make an investment in high yield bond through the sophisticated and professional fund management company. And this regulation was actually just launched basically early of this month, last week, basically. Yeah. That is one of the example that the market player may take a lead role in pushing for more advanced regulation. However, I would also comment that Thailand is quite lucky because the regulator played quite a proactive role as well in terms of pushing for more advanced regulation. The example of this would be Project Internon of the Bank of Thailand, because you may have heard from the news that Bank of Thailand implement DLT in like a real-time gross settlement. And this project was spearheaded by Bank of Thailand with the collaboration of 8 commercial banks in Thailand. And this project are divided into like 3 phases at the moment. The first phase deal with implementing blockchain technology in the interbank transfer transaction. Mm-hmm. The first phase was successfully implemented in January last year. And the second phase would deal with the delivery versus payment for the interbank bond trading transaction and repo transaction, the repurchase transactions. And again, this is still like interbank transaction, and it was successfully implemented in June last year. I think the very, very obvious successful one in Project Internon would be the third phase, which is the joint collaboration between the Bank of Thailand and the HKMA, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, because for this phase, it applies central bank digital currency for the cross-border payment. So this is an attempt to try to expand the success of using the DLT in terms of payments and in terms of cross-border transaction. And this project was proved successful and complete in January 2020. So I think, this is the example that the Bank of Thailand, which is one of the regulators, take a lead role in pushing for more advanced regulation and trying to basically facilitate and accommodate the market players to implement technologies. On top of that example, the SEC of Thailand also announced what we call capital market digital infrastructure project, which is actually driven by the Thai SEC. And this project basically, try to push for, I would say, implementation of the advanced technology like blockchain to the offering, and also providing services in the capital market, which is the main, I would say, market in Thailand for fundraising. And this project was launched in September last year, led or driven by the SEC of Thailand. So I would say that, it's a bit of both approach in Thailand.
Thank you for sharing all this information. And we understand that Baker McKenzie is part of the Capital Market Development Project. Are you able to share more about this project and, for example, the challenges that the project has in terms of market development and legal?
Sure. We play a role as a legal advisor to the Thai SEC in the SEC Capital Market Digital Infrastructure Project. And in that project, we basically assist the SEC to develop like master blueprint for Thai capital market. In that master blueprint, it contains like an overview of how Thai capital market can apply blockchain technology to various process in offering the traditional securities product, from issuing an offering for sale of that securities product in a primary market and secondary market to the post-trade settlement process. And to implement that master blueprint as a pilot project, the SEC explore the feasibility of using DLT in context of corporate bond, which is expected to be later expanded to other type of securities, just like SME shares, funds, or derivatives product, and also any other capital market product as well. So as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the role as a legal counsel, we have to advise the SEC on the feasibility of the pilot project, which encompass several legal issues, just like the legality of issuance and transfer of scriptless bond on the DLT Power platform, and also the options for the regulator to regulate the platform operator as to whether or not the regulator should use the existing licensing framework, approval framework, or should regulate it using the light touch approach by contract instead. Also, we advise the regulator, i.e. the SEC in this case, on the legal implementation of digitizing the bond subscription process. And the most important thing, we have to review all of the existing law and regulation to see that, if we are going to implement the blockchain technology on an end-to-end basis from issuing and offering to the post-trade settlement process, what will be the amendment to the existing regulation required to be implemented in the pilot project. So that would be, the overview of our roles in that project.
All right, thank you. And what do you expect to the Thai financial market to gain from the capital market development project in this 3 years' time?
Sure. I would say that this capital market development project has 3 main objectives. The first one is to increase the efficiency of the market. Second is to reduce costs, and the last but not least is to facilitate market accessibility. So obviously, I would say I would like to see the achievement of these 3 main objectives of the project in the next 3 years' time. And also, I would say that what I like to see most is the alternative, like digital infrastructure for issuance and secondary trading of the traditional products in capital market. But obviously, to achieve those objectives, I think the challenge would steer towards like addressing the pain points from market players and from practical perspective, while striking the delicate balance of interests of all stakeholders as well. So obviously, this is going to be an alternative digital infrastructures in the capital market, but it will not basically cause any market disruption to the traditional world as well. Yeah, I would say that is my expectation.
Thank you so much, Ms. Benja, for sharing your expertise, your knowledge with us, and also thank you for accepting to be part of this STACS series. It was a real pleasure for me to have you in this interview.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for giving me opportunities to give an interview as well.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good day.